of socioeconomic and environmental sustainability in our region and beyond. This year's week acquires particular significance as it's held under the title of United on Climate Action towards COP28, thereby kicking off the journey of the climate conference from COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh progressively to its new home at COP28 in Dubai towards the end of this year. ADSW is also a vital demonstration of the immense potential that our region has and a reflection of the firm commitment to a just transition through international cooperation, deep and impactful transformation, sound sustainability policies and practices, and above all, to consistent and effective leadership in the global fight against climate crises. Both Egypt and the UAE have success stories and promising plans that prove that our region is on the right trajectory. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, since this is my first public event as COP27 President since the Sharm el-Sheikh conference concluded its proceedings on the morning of the 20th of November 2022, I am keen to share with you the most impactful outcomes and deliverables of the 27th United Nations Conference on Climate Change. Sharm el-Sheikh's COP27 was the largest international multilateral conference of our time, with more than 46,000 participants. It was also the conference of state parties coinciding with the 30th anniversary of the adoption of the UN framework on climate change. However, what made COP27 most meaningful and impactful was not only the virtue of its size or the host of transformative outcomes secured after difficult and lengthy negotiations, but rather the fact that it was a watershed moment when multilateralism achieved a decisive victory and emerged triumphant against all odds. On the 7th and 8th of November, close to 120 heads of state and government gathered in Sharm el-Sheikh to promote stronger climate action and advocate against backsliding or backtracking. They discussed new pathways for cooperation regarding the future of energy, just transition, innovative finance, food and water security, and enhanced support to communities in climate-vulnerable situations. At a time when our world is grappling with a lengthy thread of cascading risks and overlapping challenges, including grave geopolitical tensions and polarization, unsettling energy and food crises, and uneven post-pandemic recovery, world leaders, ministers, negotiators chose the right thing to do and stood united to usher in a new era geared towards implementing climate commitments and pledges. Unanimously, the international community adopted the Sharm el-Sheikh Implementation Plan, a self-evident signal towards rapid, robust, and meaningful climate ambition and action. The outcomes of COP27, including the Sharm el-Sheikh Implementation Plan, were also a call for greater climate justice, where those contributing the least to climate change, yet bear most of the brunt of its adverse impacts, are accorded the fair treatment they deserve through a genuine just transition, as well as sufficient and accessible means of implementation. This was our commitment to our constituencies and partners in Africa, the Middle East, and the developing world at large, and we made every effort to fulfill it. At COP27, the relevance and credibility of the global climate diplomacy was contingent on listening and heeding to the calls for help by frontline communities in climate-vulnerable situations, the victims of climate-induced calamities and other adverse effects, and those whose lives and livelihoods were jeopardized by our sluggish efforts to offset the climate crisis. COP27 was the first COP ever to put funding, the response to loss and damage, on the formal agenda of the COP and CMA, and only 2 weeks after state parties adopted a historic agreement to establish new funding arrangements to respond to loss and damage, including through a fund addressing this purpose, in Sharm el-Sheikh, the international community convened to address the aspirations of millions of victims in Pakistan, Africa, small islands, and many other places around the world, that there is solid resolve to act and provide the necessary support. Ladies and gentlemen, Sharm el-Sheikh delivered outcomes that once again reiterated the need for urgent and robust mitigation measures that can preserve the Paris Agreement temperature goal, keeping the 1.5 degree within reach. The worrying findings provided by the best available science in the form of the IPCC reports, in addition to UNEP's emissions gap and the UNFCCC's NDC's synthesis reports, leaves us with a single option: to do more and to do it now. At COP27, the parties reached a breakthrough agreement on a 6-year new mitigation work program and opened a transformative pathway towards the first ever work program for just transition. This, together with a call for stronger commitment to new and enhanced nationally determined contributions and for progressive improvement in energy mixes, can put the world on the right track towards a global net zero by 2030. As part of the mitigation actions, COP27 outcomes confirmed the urgency of rapidly transforming energy systems and accelerating transition to renewable energy, and called for increasing the share of clean energy in the energy mix, thus achieving immediate, deep, and sustained emissions reductions. Furthermore, governments and other stakeholders sponsored several innovative and useful supporting initiatives towards further consolidating the status of renewable sources of energy. One notable initiative is the new Global Hydrogen Council, launched by Their Excellencies the President of the Arab Republic of Egypt and the Prime Minister of Belgium, as well as the Global Offshore Wind Alliance, led by Denmark and Irena. Meanwhile, the Sharm el-Sheikh implementation plan advocated for further action, investment and finance for preservation and restoration of carbon sinks and stores, as well as other natural and ecological system solutions, notably for oceans and forests. On adaptation, COP27 committed itself to promoting a vigorous transformative adaptation agenda that secures sustainable resilience against climate shocks, laying the groundwork for the adaptation of a framework for the global goal on adaptation at COP28 in order to guide efforts to reduce risks of the negative impacts of climate change. Ladies and gentlemen, climate finance remains the area where the situation is the most disconcerting. The $100 billion per annum commitment is still unmet. We do note that developed countries have promised to deliver on it during this year, after 3 years of delay. But let me be clear, not delivering on such an important commitment has a direct impact, not only on the scale and level of action on the ground, or the trust between partners in this process, but also on the level of ambition and transformation expected from developing countries. Acknowledging the important role of the various finance stakeholders and the challenges facing developing countries due to the debt burden, financial constraints, and the increasing cost of finance, coupled with the limitations on access, COP27 delivered. It delivered a strong call for multilateral development banks and international financial institutions and their shareholders to reform the current policies, practices, and priorities, to scale up funding, ensure simplified access, and mobilize appropriate climate finance through the right instruments, with concessional finance as the core for climate impact projects. This call was also echoed in the discussions on the new collective quantitative goal on finance, which will hopefully resonate with this year's deliberations, paving the way for its adoption before 2025. We made every effort to design and assemble a conference that ensures the highest level possible of dynamic and meaningful multi-stakeholder engagements, with close to 12,000 participants from civil society and other constituencies. Through 11 thematic days and 14 flagship initiatives, COP27 presidency aimed to catalyze action on a wide range of issues, including finance, water, energy, decarbonization, biodiversity, and natural-based solutions, food systems and agriculture, water, gender, youth, civil society, and solutions. COP27 was clear on the need to ensure our collective action to safeguard and make use of natural carbon sinks, mainly forests and oceans. It was also very clear on the need to ensure coherence and cooperation on impacted sectors like water and other ecosystems, especially the shared ones. COP27 has confirmed yet again the vision crafted in the Convention and later in the Paris Agreement, that science and principles provide the guidance for our actions, and that cooperation is the cornerstone for effective and impactful climate action. Coordination and coherence, both in policies and actions at the international and regional levels, provide the required safeguards to avoid negative impacts, especially that shared ecosystems and resources which are vulnerable to climate impacts need a cooperative approach that ensures a win-win situation for peoples and nature. Ladies and gentlemen, COP27 has delivered against all odds, be it the challenging political international scene, debt and finance constraints, potential backsliding by some, undelivered pledges and commitments, especially on finance. It has delivered beyond the expectations of many. It is also worth mentioning that we heard the concerns expressed by some related to the need for more ambition, especially in mitigation. While we fully subscribe to such call and expectations, we were also faced by legitimate concerns that the COPs are just issuing pledges that are not fulfilled, that the climate process is delinked from reality, that some of those who are preaching for more ambition are expanding on fossil fuel, including new coal mines, delaying implementation of mitigation-related pledges, and transferring the responsibility to provide and mobilize finance to others. In the same vein, we heard that it is imperative that we, governments, private sector, civil society, and other stakeholders ought to focus on implementation, finding solutions to finance, technology, and transition challenges. Be just, work on the basis of equity, ensure that social and economic dimensions are part of our agreed and envisaged transition, and ensure that we are all delivering on our responsibilities as agreed on in the Convention and the Paris Agreement. As we start the countdown to COP28 in Dubai, the whole world, and particularly our region, aspires to resume and maximize the momentum created at COP27. The global challenge remains unabated, yet the necessity of doubling down on climate action, as well as the creation of resilient and low-carbon economies, is more important than ever. I am confident that COP28 will present its credentials as an important COP, where several crucial mandates and deliverables will be agreed and taken forward. High expectations